there, it's Maggie. And down below the tripod is the reason why I need to do this project in video. Let me show you the problem. Come here, Crystal. This is Crystal Gale. Crystal Gale is very curious. Crystal Gale keeps climbing behind the TV. And now my wife's nice 4K, whatever numbers, video game TV that she uses is very wobbly. She's playing with all the wires. So my goal is I'm going to make a TV stand that goes under here and up against the back wall. I'm going to stain it to match this, and the TV will go up here. So I'm calling this rent a friendly because it's going to be like we're mounting the TV, but it's not going to be attached to the wall. So we're going to do this together, and you're a pain in the butt. So the first thing I did was I measured, I don't know if you can even see it here. See down there? The legs? I measured the distance and the depth under there because it's going to be like a little platform that slides under, that be under here, and then it'll go up here. Okay? So that's the project. It's going to be made out of 2x4s, and hopefully we can get it done in like 2 nights of after work. Okay? And if this actually works out, then I'll print up what I did and I will put it in the description down below. See you on the next step.
Okay, so here we are, on to the next part. Now, I bought 5 2x4s, well, 8-foot long ones, you know, at the big box store. But the important thing to realize, especially when you get construction lumber at the big box stores, is cut the ends off because they're usually cracked, chipped, not straight. And that way you can have like a real nice like spot to start your measuring with. So what we're building first is we're going to build that base. And it's really going to depend on the size of where you're squeezing it into as to how big you're going to make it. But I'll put my measurements in the description of how I made it. I think mine's a pretty generalized one. So I think it'll work. So yeah, I'm just cutting it all down. Believe it or not, I've got this at double speed. This is how slow I am. But I'd rather be slow and not cut my fingers off. You know what I'm saying? So I believe it was 3 feet long each side. And then I'm checking my phone because I literally emailed myself the measurements I wanted to do so I wouldn't lose them. Because I don't know how to use that note thingy on my phone. I'm cutting it all down. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make like a big rectangle and put braces all along in it.
See that? It's all split. So I'm going to have to cut it where the split ends. Then I can measure out from there. Okay?
Okay, so I'm just continuing cutting. It's really important that we get this really bottom stable and strong and really loaded down with 2x4s, because this is going to be the weight that keeps it from flipping over. TVs are expensive.
Okay, so I was able to get the last couple pieces out of scrap. So I've only used like 2.5 2x4s. I got 5. Can't even cut school math. There's an example of it. Like I said, my math teacher was an amazing basketball coach. So anyway, so I just got to cut these down.
Okay, here's the fun part. Sanding. I pretty much just did a 220 grit on everything because my big thing was making sure there wasn't any splinters or tear out, and that, you know, I kind of sanded all the wood down for no splinters, and that the stain would take good. Because a lot of my furniture is very rustic anyway, so it doesn't have to be picture perfect. So I'm sanding and sanding and sanding. Now see this space? Now those ones sticking up, they're just there as spacers. They're just scrap for spacers. But I want to make sure that it's all centered because the other 2x4s, they're going to be going up to hold the TV. You want to make sure those are centered right. You don't want your TV off to one side. It's just going to look wonky. And then I'm even trying to make sure it's square. So I'm using the speed square, trying to get everything straight. And again, I have this on double speed. This is how slow I'm trying to be to make sure I got this right. You don't want your TV to be all wonky and fall over. TVs are not cheap. And what I'm doing is I'm taking and putting a little dot where each 2x4 is going to be, so I can make sure when I screw them in, they don't like wiggle. Do you know how sometimes when you put a screw in, it just shoots it out of spot? I put those as spacers because all 2x4s are the same width. And that way I can make sure everything is centered. I'm doing it along the ends. And make sure when you do this, you pre-drill your holes, because if you just screw them in, you're going to crack them all up and it's going to be a hot mess. Okay? So I just had one drill, my regular drill. I had the little drill in it, bit in it, and then my, I know it's not a hammer drill, impact driver, I had with my screwdriver, and that's how I did it. I used 2-inch wood screws. The ones that say the 8 and they have the X and the 2. Those are the ones I used. And then here I'm showing you my battery was got goop on it. I'm afraid that my batteries might be biting the dust, but it kept working, so I was like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I may have to try to get some more batteries from my not Ryobi, what are those? Flex drills. I hope not. I'm sure they're not cheap. But this is me drilling holes. Just wild and crazy. Make sure everything stays lined up. Put those little dots on it so you can make sure, okay? Okay, so you remember back when I said that I messed up the math and I didn't, and I got way too much wood? Well, thankfully I got way too much wood because I never thought about the 2x4s I was going to need to go straight up to actually hold the TV up. Because those I figured out to be about 5 foot. So I cut those 5 foot long and I attached them down that bottom where we made the extra support. Now I'm at the top because you have to actually make sure they're square. So make sure that the measurement you got at the bottom is the measurement you have at the top. You don't want it bowing out. Certain things in life you don't want to bow, and one of them is that. So I measured it out square and I cut braces that will hold it together and make it nice and strong. Okay? So the first thing I did was measure that length when we made it square and cut some scrap 2x4s to that length. I did 2 of them. One that I put about a third of the way up from the bottom, and the other one I put across the top to hold it in place. So see, aren't I being a good little girl? Not only am I marking it on one side, I'm marking it on the other, so I can make sure, and then I go and I also do that on the other piece of wood too, so that we can make sure this all goes according to plan. Yeah, and this was a good idea. I don't know why I didn't do this when I was first squaring it up, but putting that clamp across to make it easier. Again, pre-drilled holes, and now I'm going to put the screws in so it holds it all together. And now the clamp let go because the pressure lets go because I had that one there, but it's all good. God, I look like a hot mess trying to screw those in, don't I? I should have left the clamp on for a few more minutes. Okay, now this one, it's about a third of the way up. And again, I measured it and cut it down so that it fits exactly across. Pre-drilled the holes and then screwed it in. Please pre-drill the holes because that cheap construction pine is going to crack like a you-know-what if you don't. Okay? Now these are measured 16 inches and I'm attaching them from the top down on the outside. I'm going to use them to help support that metal frame, that metal bracket that you put the TV actually on. And that way it just gives it that extra oomph because again, TVs are expensive. I can go buy 2x4s pretty easily, but to find a TV that makes my wife happy to play her video games on isn't an easy task. So always make sure over construct this. Just gonna do the same thing on the other side. Okay, again, on double time, and what I'm doing is I'm staining it. And I take that walnut colored stain from Minwax, and I actually take a little bit of brown paint and I stir it in with it just to make it a little bit thicker of a brown. I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do or not, but I like to do it. I find it makes it a little bit darker. Okay, so that's what I did, and I'm just literally, yes, I realize as you're looking, you're seeing I'm making a hot mess all over my garage floor. Hence the reason I end up having to paint my garage floor like every year. Because this would be one of those times, and wild and crazy, a drop cloth would probably pay off. And I have like 3 or 4 drop cloths. They look so nice sitting on the shelf instead of actually being used. But I'm just sitting there and painting. I've actually been listening to, what is it called? I forget, podcast anyways. But Decoding the Unknown, that's what it is. I was listening to that. I think it was about like a ghost detective or something. It was good. So when I do stain, I buy those cheap foam brushes at the Dollar Tree because I'm not a responsible painter. I don't wash out my brushes. So with the foam ones, I can just throw them away. And yes, I'm wearing Miss Mate socks. I always wear Miss Mate socks. Life's too short to wear matching socks. So I literally did this whole thing with stain. I didn't go back and wipe it down until after I stained the whole thing because I really wanted it to be a darker color. So now here I am, I'm just taking an old shop rag and wiping it down. And still I'm not doing 100% because I do want it to stay dark. And then what I did after this, after I wiped it all down, I put a fan in front of it to try to help because it's Florida, it's humid. If I let it dry completely on its own, this video could take me weeks. The next day, I sprayed it down with a rattle can of clear coat. That's the teenager in the corner. I was telling her to get out of the way. She's going to get all fumed because I have a fan behind me blowing the fumes out. So I did 2 coats with the rattle can, and then I just let that sit overnight to, get set. I know, I'm probably making another hole in the ozone. Okay, so next I'm putting up that metal bracket thing, that you get so that you mount your TV onto the wall. Well, instead I'm mounting it onto our stand that we're making. And I pre-drilled holes and I'm putting it in. I'm also making sure it's level, which was a pain in the butt because my floor is not level. So I had to go and try to level the stand first, so that when I went and leveled that bracket, it would be level. Because if your stand's not leveled and then you level the bracket, when the stand's on a level surface, the bracket will be going, it'll be a hot mess. So anyways, before you bother to level the bracket, make sure the stand you're putting it on is level. I had to use some wooden coasters to make mine level. And looking at this, I'm realizing we have a lot of cat stuff. I'm looking, we've got the cat tower, we've got 2 cat houses, scratching post, toys. We even have the cat pillow in the background. Well, the cat pillow's Bonnie's fault. She got it for Lori for her birthday. So I'm just making sure it's all centered, making sure that the screws are in the middle of the 2x4, not on the end, so they don't crack and make a hot mess. And then after I do all this, I realized that I didn't pay attention. So, spoiler alert, I'm gonna have to take that down and redo it. See? Because the holes are bigger than the screw heads. So I had to go out to the garage and find some washers that I could put, with the screw heads. I think I'm going to show them to you. Oh, yes, I do. You go, just teeny tiny little washers, but they're enough to go in the screw heads to make it so that they won't fall through the holes. But at least now I have nice pre-drilled holes. And I'm using my mouth as another set of fingers to hold the washers and the screws. So I take the screws out, put the washers on, reattach it. Not that you can even tell because I keep turning my back to you. But that's what I'm doing. Okay, so now we got it up. We know it's leveled. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. Okay, so then you're going to go and you put screws with washers on the bottom, or just buy bigger head screws to begin with. And this rack I got right on Amazon. It was like 17 bucks or something, so it's not a big deal. Here we go. Ta-da! Look at that, apples. Woohoo!
Okay, so it's completed. So it's up. The cat can't get to it. There's room for a pretty sword. It's a little bit higher up, so it'd be nicer for the video game thingies. I did not take the legs off because I couldn't figure out how to do them. So when wifey comes home, I'll have her help me take the legs off. So this video, 99% of it is going to be voiceover. Please let me know in the comments if you like the voiceover better, because I know I've had a terrible time with audio. So I'm going to do the majority of this video voiceover, and we'll see how it works. Thank you so much for watching, and just a heads up, next video is going to be about changing a ceiling fan because we have ceiling fan issues. Talk to you soon. Bye.